Hello, I'm Kyla Hawk.
And I'm Erica Haynes. Today we'll be talking with the Mussetters. Nathaniel Mussetter is a math teacher at Park High, along with his wife, Sarah Mussetter, who is an art teacher.
Most people think of these subjects as very different from one another, so today we're going to be asking how they incorporate both disciplines into their everyday lives.
How did you and Miss Mussetter meet?
How did you and Mr. Mussetter meet?
We were on like a campus group and we met there, so what else? I don't really remember a ton of the details, but.
Okay. So back long ago in the dark ages, Mr. Mussetter and I went to college at MSU together, and we were part of a same church group. And so we met there originally, but we kind of connected the most when he helped me with my math homework because I was really bad at it. And we got me through college math. So he's been tutoring for a very long time.
And then I helped her with math, and that won her over, I think, so.
Did you ever help him with art?
Yes, there specifically when we were first dating, one of the first nights that we hung out to do artsy fartsy things, he painted a banana and a can of beans until about 2:30 in the morning, and I just wanted to go home. But it was a beautiful banana and can of beans. So. Yeah.
There was a banana incident where she was teaching me to do like a still life, and we set a banana out on the table, and I spent the next 4 hours painting it. It could have been more.
Would you consider yourself good at math?
That's a good question. I don't think traditionally, and for a very long time, I've thought of myself as bad at math and terrible at all things like that. And then I found out that a lot of that had to do with being in school. And so when it's attached to a grade, no, I do not consider myself good at math. But when it comes to job-related things, whether it's matting or trying to figure out how much resin goes into some kind of a volume, things like that, knowing how much materials I need. It's funny because you bust out some algebra, you bust out some solving for X and all that good stuff in the art world even. And so I guess I don't traditionally consider myself good at math, but I do math almost daily, so.
I would say I'm unpracticed at art. Unless it's woodworking and that type of stuff, I'm apparently okay at that. I'm just unbelievably slow, but yeah.
So even though art is your major and stuff, you still, math is still very much part of your world?
Yes, and not just because I'm married to a math teacher, but yes, I do use math most every day, which surprises me, and I didn't believe my high school math teacher when he told me that would happen. I was like, no, you don't know. So.
In your art classes, do you have to bring up that to students that don't believe that math is used in art?
Yes, I think especially those who are planning on going into the careers, in a career in art, they're almost prideful with the fact they're I'm only an art kid, I'm not a math kid. And I used to totally be one of those kids where I'm I don't know math, I'm an artist. And the connection is a lot more there than you'd think. And so a lot of my kids, when they have this hatred towards math or almost pride that they don't know math, we do have some conversations because learning how to do matting, if you get into anything with sculpture, once you have to start buying your own materials, you do not want to overbuy because that stuff is expensive. So there's a little bit of kind of hopefully a humbling where our subjects intersect quite a bit more than you'd think. And Mr. Mussetter will say that too, I'm sure.
Just as a math person, I wish I would have done more creating in art in high school and didn't wait until I was an adult to do it.
We talk about this at home a lot, just the intersect of our two subjects and how they're not nearly as separate as people like to think. People are oh, left brain, right brain. That's kind of been deadened in recent research. But problem solving is a huge thing that both areas deal with. So you try stuff, it doesn't work, you have to try it again. And if you refuse to problem solve in either subject, you're not going to get very far. Dealing with frustration is something that both subjects kind of have to deal with. There's creativity in both. So math is interesting, and it's something that I didn't understand even until I met Mr. Mussetter, is that But there's a creative side of math, so once you learn your basic skills, then you can apply them in really creative ways. The same is true in art. You got to learn the basics, and then you get to like kind of take it further. But math is very much the same, which I never realized because I was not very good at the basics.
So how do you think that art and math connect in a way that people don't usually think they do?
I think a lot of people, so math is the battleground of testing and GPAs and all this stuff. And it's sort of this antiquated way that we teach it, I think, in a lot of ways. And so it turns into this game of school rather than like actually using it. And so a lot of people never really find out that math is like, it's like once you learn the language, you can just create and make animations and figure stuff out and like kind of do whatever you want. So
How would you describe the importance for students to have the disciplines in both fields?
I think there's a lot of value in both. Again, we talk about this at home a lot, that there's students who excel in his classes that I never, ever see in mine. And hopefully they show up in Miss Nyland's. But sometimes they take music, and so they never take a visual arts.
So I was afraid of taking art in high school because I was worried I was going to ruin my GPA because I couldn't draw very well. And I didn't really know if I could draw. So like, I don't know, like, I wish I would have spent more time like learning the details of art and creating.
But I think for students to be able to master both a creative and a calculative brain, which I don't think that's a word, but we're going to say calculative is a word. So being able to calculate and create, that's where the future's heading. Especially with AI, we talk a lot about how a lot of those basic tasks are going to be done by machines here soon. So if you are not someone who can problem solve, take information, and create something new, you might be struggling to find careers in the future, like within the next 25 years. So I think balancing a little bit of both is good. I'm trying not to hate either one. I do think that there's value in both and that your brain benefits from both. And sometimes you can get them to benefit together.
So could you talk a little more about your woodworking?
Let's see, what's to say? I don't know, I just randomly decided I think I'll try woodworking because I was bored, and then it turned out I was good at it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it incorporates both art and math in an interesting way.
Yep. I like making things that feel like they're out of a fantasy world and kind of making them come to life like in our world. So
Now to kind of change the conversation. Yeah. Here we go. You recently had a daughter,
We did.
and her name is,
Freya.
but with having a daughter now, have you and Mr. Musser thought of how you're going to bring her up in this world with both aspects of art and math?
Definitely. And that's something we talk about a lot, is that we want to give her a toolbox, but still let her decide what she wants to do. So I think that obviously this is our first kid, so things are changing daily. But we want to make sure that she's got an understanding of math, and like able to kind of like wrestle with numbers, but also like a very creative brain. And if she wants to use neither of them when she grows up, as long as she's happy, we don't really care. Like, I don't want math to define her. I don't want art to define her unless that's something she chooses for herself, kind of thing. But we want to give her as many tools as we can. And we know a lot of weird random things, so hopefully it's a big toolbox.
she'll probably be into art just because both my wife and I do it in some way now, like me with my woodworking, and then her because that's who she is. So, yeah. So I think she'll get a lot of exposure to that. So I just really don't want her freaked out by math, like happens to so many people. That's the number one goal, keep her from getting freaked out.
So I know she's only 10 months old, but what are some things that you guys have been doing in her life so far that give her these tools, like you said?
I did a painting with her actually for my master's class, which was really fun. So I had her take chalk pastels and just like go nuts on a canvas. And then I took those marks and made it into a painting, which is actually over there.
I want to teach her that math is just fun. It's a lot more about, like, that's what my dad did for me. And, like, I just want it mostly to not have a negative connotation with it, so.
And then Mr. Musseter has been working with her on building stuff. We have blocks in the house. Math at an early age, I think it's not necessarily like teaching her like functions yet, but you never know, that'd be awesome. But kind of teaching her processes, like what happens when I do this, and more like structured thinking, I suppose. If I throw this piece of blueberry on the floor, it doesn't bounce back up, and like just exploration in the world, I guess. So nothing too stable yet, but we like letting her make messes and try things, and I think that that's kind of the basis of math and art, so.
Okay. I think that's all I really have, so thank you for your time.
Clearly, these two subjects have a lot more in common than most people think.
Thank you to the Mussetters for talking with us today and sharing their lives with us.